Hi, I'm Russ Peterson, professor of bassoon and saxophone here at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota. And today I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the North Dakota All-State audition for the bassoon. We've got a couple things here that we'll go over. The first one that they ask you to do is a scale, a G major scale, 2 octaves, quarter note equals 180, tongued up, slurred down. So maybe I'll just demonstrate that very quickly. You can see on my stand here I've got a tuner and I've got a metronome. 2 things that I never ever practice without. Every lesson I teach has these 2 things on the stand, so I would encourage everybody to own a tuner and a metronome. So here's the metronome tempo at 180. G major scale, tongued up, slurred down. 1, 2, So the first thing that I would suggest is do not practice that fast. I practice my scales at a slow, controlled tempo, making sure that every fingering is correct. We could probably spend about an hour in this video just talking about bassoon fingerings. We're not going to, but I'm going to mention a couple that are very important that you really need to force yourself to do. And I probably 90% of the high school bassoonists that I work with use the wrong fingerings. And that's a generous number. It's probably more than that. So it's common not to use the right bassoon fingerings. You really should hook up with a bassoon teacher that can really show you correct fingerings. The instrument's hard enough, let alone if you're trying to force a note out with the wrong fingering. So the first 2 notes that I really want you to focus on is the 4th line F sharp and the note right above that, the G. Both of those notes should be half hole. And when you half hole, hope you can see this, you take your first finger and you slide it over half the hole. You slide it right down. So this is the F sharp and G. If you don't, you get a growl. It'll just growl on you the whole time. You really got to get that half hole going. The next 3 notes, A, B, and C, should be flicked. Now we use the flick keys back here, or the vent keys. I like to use this top C key here. I actually hold it down for those 3 notes. I'll demonstrate if you can see. So it's like an octave key for those 3 notes. So it would be, if we're going from the F sharp, I think half hole, flick, flick, flick. If you use those correct fingerings for those notes in that range, you'll never growl. They'll always, even if your reed is kind of fighting you a little bit, at least those notes won't growl on you. The next thing that you have to do is a chromatic scale from low B flat to high F. All slurred, quarter note equals 120. So before I play this for you, I want you to be aware that if you're playing a high school bassoon, it's probably in need of repair. Once again, 90% of the high school bassoons that I run into are in bad shape. So if you can, take it to a repairman. Make sure every key is closing. You've got to play a low B flat on this chromatic scale. And if this key doesn't close or this doesn't, this is a combination key over here, which means it closes multiple keys. This closes 3 keys. Here's kind of all 4. If any of this is out of adjustment, you're going to have a really hard time getting any of these low notes out. The other thing that you need to be aware of is this whisper key right here. When you close your whisper key with your thumb, it should close. It should cover the hole on the vocal. And when you play a low E, it's this pancake key. It should also close this key. So here's the pancake key, closing that key. So if that is not being covered, you're going to have a really hard time getting any low notes happening. So that's a quick check. Just make sure that your pad's closed and make sure you get this whisper key closing on there. Here is the chromatic scale, B flat to F, quarter note equals 120. Let's listen to 120. And the judges are going to be listening for this tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so make sure that you are as close to this tempo as you can get. Chromatic scale. The other thing I'd like you to think about is when you play the low notes, don't use this part of your thumb. Use this part of your thumb so you can kind of get around here. If you're going like this, you're going to have a really hard time if you're using like the tip of your thumb. So make sure you're using back behind the knuckle of your thumb. We could also spend quite a bit of time talking about bassoon reeds. Briefly, all I'm going to say is the bassoon reeds that you buy in a shop, like a local music store, they're usually not the best quality. If you can find somebody that hand makes reeds or a teacher that can help you adjust your reed, you're going to do much better. The reeds that you get in shops are usually scraped way too much, and they're the kind of the wrong length. They'll play a little out of tune, and the tone is not great. So here at Concordia, I teach a bassoon reed making class. So we're scraping our own reeds, we're making our own reeds, we're learning to adjust reeds. If you can hook up with a teacher, this is like an art form in itself. So that's highly recommended. Or at least find some handmade reeds that'll help give you a good tone. Okay, there's the spiel on reeds. The etude that we're going to play is quarter note equals 108. And it has a lot of articulations in it. Remember on bassoon, tongue to the reed. I sometimes hear a lot of bassoon students tonguing behind their teeth or even tonguing with their throat. Make sure that you've got your tongue right on the reed and that your staccatos are nice and crisp on this. That's tip of the tongue right on the reed. Tut, tut, tut. Follow the articulations closely. This is two slur, staccato, staccato, staccato. So as a judge, I would be listening for proper execution of all articulations. There are some tricky fingerings in this when you get up to the high G. A lot of high school bassoonists, the range on this is a little difficult. So again, check a fingering chart. Make sure you're using good fingerings for the high F sharp and the high Gs. And as we get into these upper register, there's a lot of fingerings. I could pull a book down off of my shelf there. It's this thick. It's just bassoon fingerings. There's a lot of bassoon fingerings. They're confusing. I'm not going to freak you out in this video by showing those to you right now. But let me play this etude for you really quick. We'll see what we can do with this. Couple things that I was thinking about through that. Not only am I trying to play the right notes, the right rhythms, the right articulations, the right fingerings, in tune, with metronomically steady. To be honest, I don't really care about that stuff. What I care about is if you can make a musical phrase out of the thing. And I think that's going to be the difference between somebody who does well in auditions and somebody who makes the chair, because judges want to hear somebody who plays musically. So what would be musical in this? Even though it's just kind of a quaint little etude, I still think that you can try to make some music out of this. So first of all, let's not think so many notes. I hear a lot of students come in to play like that, where notes are kind of islands. They're just by themselves. What I would think about is pushing through each note and trying to make a phrase out of them. So first of all, you see I'm kind of trying to push to the top. It's not written. There's no dynamics in this thing. But I'm still trying to push through some 16th notes. Of course, that's tricky when you're thinking about fingerings and such. And that's why we have to kind of take care of all of our technical needs, practice your scales, and make sure you practice good fingering so that we can eventually get to the music. If you have any questions on bassoon or saxophone, you can drop me a line. My email is at the bottom of this video. Feel free to click on that. Drop me a note anytime. Wishing you good luck on your auditions and continued success playing the bassoon. Have a great day.